Yeah, I'm feeling like a star. You can't stop my shine. I'm flying cloud nine. My head's in the sky. I'm solo. I'm riding solo. I'm riding solo. I'm riding solo. Solo. Yeah, I'm feeling good tonight. Finally doing me, and it feels so right. Oh.
All right, what's up, everybody? Another day of riding solo. It is May 25th, 11 a.m. We got a full slate of games today, Memorial Day weekend. If you can tell down at the bottom of the screen, Lou hooked me up with a sweet overlay there for my own riding solo. Got a little logo now with a solo cup, so I'm a little more official than I would have been had it just been the normal Christian Yelich type overlay. But anyway, we got a full slate of games to get to. Hopefully everybody's had a pretty good weekend of DFS and just hanging out, having a good time on Memorial Day. I know not a lot of people work tomorrow, and a bunch of day games tomorrow, so should be another fun day today and leading into that there tomorrow. Not too much to go over in terms of kind of review. I've been pretty busy this weekend going to some Bucks games. I'll actually be there again today. Everybody's just been hanging out. Not much else to say on that front. But what I do want to do is we're going to get to all the games today here. We're going to talk about some stuff and hopefully lead you guys to some winnings and some cash today. It looks like a lot of mix and match with pitchers today. You got a lot of like front runners and then a bunch of younger guys making starts and some older guys like Randy Wolf actually getting starts today. But we'll jump into that here real quickly. First game I have on my list is at the Rogers Center. It's Drew Pomeranz and Jay Happ. Two left-handed guys who really have just been complete opposites in terms of performance, not only this year, but I guess in terms of what we're expecting from them in the future as well. Pomeranz has been absolutely fantastic, absolutely incredible. 4-1 with a .94 ERA. It's a sub-1 ERA to start the year, but he doesn't really get too much of a favorable matchup, diving into the Rogers Center, which is notorious for all those Blue Jays, just mashing people that go in there. Unfortunately, being left-handed, he's not going to have the platoon advantage over some of those better bats, like Joey Batista and Edwin Encarnacion, and even Melky and Reyes can both flip and switch from the right side. Due to that, despite Pomeranz being real good to start the year, I really can't get on board with using him, especially with some of the other options today. And the other thing about this is that he's been real good with the 4-1, but since he's come out of the bullpen here, he hasn't been stretched out really at all. 5 innings in each of his first 3 starts. He got the win in all 3, didn't give up a single run in all 3, so it's 15 straight scoreless innings. But I really can't get on board with a guy who might only go 5, and despite the chance for maybe 5 to 6 strikeouts, it's just not a matchup that's really conducive for many fantasy points today. It's something that I'd totally pretty much stay away from. On the same end of that thing, if you're thinking about using Blue Jays hitters against him, I think it's the familiar few here in the month of May. Edwin Encarnacion's been absolutely unreal. And you might as well roster him as many times as you can before the month of May ends up because, 11 home runs in May, something like that. He's got 13 on the year now. He's just been absolutely unreal. And Joey Bats has been really, really good this season. His walk rate's up. He's seen a lot of pitches, getting himself in a lot of favorable counts, which is not only helping him, but in turn, helping all those guys in that lineup, getting them in good positions to hit, and just really has, this is a lineup that really feasts at home, and they get that lefty, and those big guys have the platoon advantage. So those are guys to keep your eye on today. On the other end of it, Jay Happ, not a good pitcher. He's got 3 wins in his last 4 starts, but just none of those starts have been, anything exceptional. He had 1 good outing against Cleveland, but I can't really get on board with using him either. I just think this is a game that kind of blows up and has a real big chance for run potential. The A's are a type of team that really can explode, and the same goes for the Blue Jays, especially at home. The A's are a really, really heavy platoon team. You guys like Derek Norris will be in there today, and Josh Donaldson mashes lefties, and Yoenis Cespedes is like a 226 ISO against lefties. All those guys are really definitely in play today. At the top of the top of the list for guys that you're going to use. So keep those guys, kind of on your radar there. Not too many other A's that I'm really going to jump on board with. Some guys I think you'll probably see in there. I think you'll probably see Kyle Blanks, who hits lefties really well. You'll probably see, Coco will be able to flip around. Lowry hits better from the right side, not power-wise, but average-wise from the right side. So there are going to be plenty of guys with the platoon advantage there, just not a whole lot that I'm going to probably jump into outside of those top big guys. And I know I just wasted like 6 minutes on this game, but there's a lot to mention there with two lefties going, a very, very nice hitter's park, and some of the better hitters in the game, especially Joey Bats and Edwin Encarnacion. But I'll move on to the next one. I have Colby Lewis and Verlander at Comerica. Man, this is a tough one for me. The Rangers have been such a maddening team all season long. Such a good lineup that kind of was put together there that just really, hasn't produced. And now without Prince Fielder, just really, takes a toll on that lineup as a whole. And removes a guy that, you expected to be in there. He had like a 530-game active streak. So you expected him to be in there every day. And, without him now, that really takes a toll on that lineup as a whole. And I know Verlander isn't the pitcher he once was, but I don't see the Rangers lineup actually, doing a whole lot against him today. He hasn't been too good in his last few. He's given up 5 earned in his last 2 starts on the road. He comes back home today against Texas, but just not something that I really feel comfortable using, despite not wanting to use too many Texas guys. It's kind of one of those flatline type games. I think guys that maybe you could keep your eye on are Shin-Soo Choo. You saw Rougned Odor have like 4 hits and 5 RBIs or something like that yesterday, a pair of triples. That guy's only like 20 years old. He's 6 months younger than I am, and he's in the big leagues getting hits and driving in runs. I know he's like minimum price everywhere, and at second base where it's difficult to find guys to roster, that's a guy that maybe you should keep your eye on. Probably not a guy I'm going to be using, but in other spots, somebody that you can definitely think about rostering. The other side of this game is where I'm thinking about targeting for the most part. It's Colby Lewis on the mound against the Tigers' offense, which is pretty high-powered. I don't see Lewis having too great of a day today, and let's see here. Last game, 6 innings, 5 earned. You give it up 9 hits. And if you just look at his game log, the amount of hits that this guy's given up is really something that scares me most. If you were to ever even consider rostering a guy like this, guys that give up a lot of hits, man, that's just you're not putting yourself in a good position to pitch well or finish the day with a strong stat line when you give up a bunch of hits. 5 earned in his last start, and that was against Seattle. Today against that kind of high-power Tigers lineup, I definitely can't use him. Miggy's definitely on board. Victor Martinez has been awesome all year long. Ian Kinsler's been great. I think those 3 guys are all in the top 5 in the American League in hitting somehow, like near the 330. So all those guys are obviously really great plays. You have a guy like maybe Don Kelly who will be in there with a platoon advantage, who could find you some value. I think Andrew Romine homered the other day, or Austin Romine homered the other day, whichever one that is. I can't even think of his first name. So there are some, I guess, value spots that you could try to plug and play here. But once again, this game I feel like is a game where if you're going to pick the guys, it's going to be kind of those higher guys, which is going to be tough when we get to some of these pitchers here that you're going to want to pay up for. But not too much plug and play value options that are really sticking out to me in these games. But I'll move on here to Jimmy Nelson and Randy Wolf at Marlins Park in Miami. Randy Wolf, man, that guy is so old. And I know in the wake of the Jose Fernandez injury, he got a major league deal with them to kind of come in and just pitch some innings. And I guess the good thing for them clubhouse wise will be you get a veteran type guy, a leader with some of those young arms that can hopefully they'll learn something from him. But for daily fantasy purposes and fantasy purposes in general, Randy Wolf is not an option at all. In fact, he's a guy that we should definitely be targeting. Just some notes on Jimmy Nelson. This is a right-handed guy who's had a really good year in AAA thus far. 1.71 ERA with a 9K per nine, so that's the strikeout per inning. Not a very high walk rate, and 0.16 home runs per nine. So probably don't expect maybe too many home runs out of that Marlins lineup today. I will mention, although it is a right-handed guy on the mound, so Christian Yelich is obviously in play, one of my favorite guys. This isn't like the perfect day to use him because there are a lot of other options, but Christian Yelich is definitely on board. The other guys in this game that you want to use are the right-handed bats from the Brewers. Braun mashes lefties. Mark Reynolds has some decent. He's got a couple home runs against Randy Wolf. Ricky Weeks has been swinging it well. Jonathan Lucroy. I could go on and on. Chris Davis has a ton of home run potential. All these guys that are going to be in this lineup are definitely in play against Randy Wolf. I really don't know what to really expect from Wolf. I know he's going to go out there and try to pitch. Obviously, the velocity isn't going to be there. Let's see what he had. He's thrown 5 innings thus far this season with a 1.8 ERA. That doesn't really count in 5 innings. But 38.5% ground ball rate, so that's a lot of fly balls you're looking at, and hopefully a lot of fly balls from some of these Brewers today that end up leaving the yard. I'm not sure if this lineup. Let me check and see if this lineup is out real quick, and I will let you know. I know all those right-handed guys are definitely in play against him. Gene Segura, oddly, is the one guy who has reverse platoon splits, and they're like pretty drastic. Yeah, this lineup is out. Segura's leading off. Braun's actually hitting 2, followed by Lucroy, Gomez, Weeks, Reynolds, Davis, Maldonado, and Nelson. So all right-handed guys in that lineup. So there's value to be had with guys like Weeks and Chris Davis and Mark Reynolds and Maldonado. And then you can also pay up for guys like Lucroy, Gomez, and Braun. I think all those guys are definitely guys you need to consider today. But I really shouldn't talk too much more about that game. The Bronson Arroyo and Rafael Montero matchup at Citi Field this afternoon, 1:10 start. Oh man, Bronson Arroyo, another one of those old pitchers that shouldn't probably be pitching anymore. I know this is a doubleheader today. Arroyo's just not any good. I don't know what you really want me to say about it. He's got 3 wins in his last 4 starts, 4-3 on the year, the 4.45 ERA. But yeah, another one of these guys that just gives up a lot of hits, and hits, kind of lead to runs and, lead to, I guess, fantasy potential. That Mets lineup just came out not too long ago. Lagares, Murphy, Wright, Granderson, Chris Young, Duda, Tejada, Centeno, and Montero. We've mentioned a lot. We've picked on the Mets a lot in this line, or in the daily fantasy aspect. For pitchers, because the Mets lineup is not good. There's not anything in that lineup that really screams like, hey, play this guy. David Wright is an all-star every year, and will probably be their lone representative just because they need him to be their only representative. There's nobody else in this lineup that's any good. But I guess the guys that I would maybe consider today are that 2, 3, 4, and maybe even Duda as like a GPP play, a guy that has a lot of home run potential. This is at Citi Field, so that kind of draws away from home runs being hit and a lot of run scoring potential. But it is Bronson Arroyo, a guy who's not any good. On the other side of things, who did I mention was the Mets pitcher? I can't even remember. Rafael Montero, young righty. The Diamondbacks lineup is also another one of those lineups that just really doesn't have a whole lot. And for me today, it's kind of one of those, even though it's Montero, a young right-handed guy that we don't expect to really go out and shut them down, I'm not expecting a whole lot from the Diamondbacks lineup. It did just come out. I can read it off for you if I can find it. Gerardo Parra would be probably my favorite play from this, followed by Miguel Montero in the 4 spot, and Eric Chavez is getting started today, hitting 6. All 3 of those guys are probably my favorite, and then Paul Goldschmidt obviously is always in play there. Those are the 4 guys I would even consider from this game, but not too many plays that really stand out here. There's other games today that there's going to be way too much scoring in other games to even consider using guys at Citi Field, especially in the day. This is a doubleheader, so you have to be aware of kind of which game's going to be included in the slate. I think it'll probably be this first one with Arroyo and Montero, but I am not 100% sure. You might want to check on whatever site you're considering playing on. I don't know which one it's going to be, but I would imagine it's going to be the first game. And in that case, those guys I mentioned, the 2-3-4 for the Mets with maybe the addition of Duda, and the 1-3-6 for the Diamondbacks or the 1-4-6 with the addition of Goldschmidt. Those are the guys I'd be targeting. Neither pitcher is on my radar at all today. There's some better ones that I'm going to get here. I'll get to here in just a minute. Excuse me. Moving on to a game at Camden Yards, a hitter's park. Miguel Gonzalez and Trevor Bauer, two right-handed guys. Trevor Bauer, I know, has been a real big prospect and a guy that they expect to be, really highly thought of in that rotation for a while, and that looks like it could shape up very, very nicely with what Corey Kluber's done this year. Bauer gets to start today. The only Oriole that's ever seen him is Delman Young, who's 0-2. That's not a guy you need to even worry about at all. And Miguel Gonzalez on the other end, a bunch of guys in that Indians lineup that can swing from the left side. The guy that really sticks out to me from the Indians is Brantley, just because he's been so exceptional this year. He keeps basically defying the odds for me. I know this is a guy that kind of flies under the radar. He's an underrated player, and he's been a really solid player in his time in Cleveland. But I keep expecting him to kind of just maybe come back to earth a little bit. I know he's a guy that hits a lot of doubles, but he doesn't typically hit a lot of home runs. Well, Brantley already has 9 home runs this year, and he hit 10 all of last season. So that's pretty incredible. 9 home runs, and we still have some time here before the All-Star break, and he only hit 10 all of last season. I'm not gonna jump on board and say he's gonna hit you a home run today, but he's my favorite Cleveland Indian of all those guys, and I think it'll be actually interesting to see what happens when Kipnis comes back, where Brantley's gonna move in that order, because he's been a pretty nice mainstay in that 3 spot. On the other end of it, the Trevor Bauer against the Orioles. Although I do really like Trevor Bauer's prospects and what this guy is going to potentially be, he's not a guy that's really on my radar today. Camden Yards is a hitter's park, and there are other pitching options for me to use. So I'm not going to get cute and try to use Trevor Bauer. But I think if you're going to try to pick on Trevor Bauer, it's kind of the same guys day in and day out here. It's going to be Chris Davis, who's back now. Adam Jones is still kind of on my radar, and I'm blanking on the name of the catcher there. That could be a punt play. A guy like Steve Clevenger, that's who I'm trying to think of. Could be a punt play at the catcher position today, especially on day games falling in night games. You don't know which starters are going to be in there, who it's going to be. So that's another name there. Once again, kind of these early slate of games that I'm getting to. There's just not a whole lot that really jumps out at me as anybody I really want to use. I think Bauer would be a nice sneaky GPP option, especially if you're breaking up the slates. But man, it's really difficult. Some other Indians lefties I guess you could consider. Just about all those guys swing from the left side. Santana, Swisher, they both hit left-handed. David Murphy will be in there, a left-handed guy. Bourne, left-handed. Asdrubal can hit left-handed. Lonnie Chisenhall. So I think they'll load that lineup with lefties. I'm not sure if it's out yet. Yeah, it is out. And every single guy except for Justin Sellers at short and Mike Aviles has the potential to hit left-handed. Jason Giambi's actually in that lineup today, so something there you can consider. Another old guy. It's an older set of players in the slate today. But I'm going to move on once again. Another 135 start. Josh Beckett, AJ Burnett, 2 ex-teammates, I guess, going for opposite teams today in Citizens Bank Park. Beckett throwing for the Dodgers. Burnett obviously throwing for the Phillies. I don't believe the lineups are out for these games. This is a game that, both these pitchers at one point were guys you could really heavily consider, and even maybe on a different day would be guys that you could consider using. Excuse me, but not today, in my opinion. I do actually think there's some nice bats to use in this lineup. The one note I want to make is that Hanley Ramirez is not in the lineup for the Dodgers. It looks like Eris Ball, I have no clue how to say the last name, Arubarena is starting at shortstop, hitting 8th. Puig will be hitting 3, and that guy's just been absolutely red hot. Definitely somebody to keep on your radar. And they surrounded him with 4 lefties: D. Gordon, Carl Crawford, then Adrian Gonzalez, and Ethier. I think that 1 through 5, just about any of those guys is in play. Carl Crawford's been hot. I think like 3 homers in the last week or so. And on the other end of it, against Beckett, man, I really don't like the Phillies lineup as a whole. But you got Rollins, Utley, Howard, that 2-3-4 that you could maybe use there, with Dom Brown being another guy that has the GPP potential with home runs and stolen bases. Ben Revere is just never a guy that's on my radar, just because 1 home run, I think it was an inside the parker in his career. So don't even get cute and use a guy like Ben Revere. I just think that's too much. I like, if I were to pick my favorite kind of Dodger or my favorite Philly against Josh Beckett, it would be Chase Utley, just because his position, second base, is a difficult one to fill. On the other side of this thing, D. Gordon, is another great second base option today. If he gets on base, he's likely to go and go and go. And getting in front of guys like Carl Crawford, Puig, and Gonzalez, there's a good chance of him scoring some runs. So those are the guys from this game. Once again, I saw some tweets on this earlier in the day. The early slate just is atrocious. And, outside of kind of the Brewers against Randy Wolf, those right-handed Brewers against Randy Wolf, there's nothing that really screams at you like, hey, definitely play these guys. So it's going to be kind of like a mix and match, pick and choose, and see, like, hey, what's going to happen with these guys today. Another game, actually 135 start. This is a game that I'm going to be at. I don't know if you can see my Pirates shirt here right now. I am a Cubs fan, but since I do live in Pittsburgh, I go to a lot of Pirates games. Free shirt Friday on Friday. This was the free shirt. Pretty nice shirt, actually. So I'll be there today. It is going to be Doug Fister and Francisco Liriano. Not the pitching matchup that you guys got to see last night with Steven Strasburg and Garrett Cole, but still should be a decent day of baseball, and it's beautiful here in Pittsburgh right now. I'm looking forward to getting there. Should be a lot of fun. Matt Bell did tweet out Adam LaRoche is back, and I jumped on Bell a little bit. I didn't realize he was referring to just looking that Adam LaRoche is back in the long term here, but don't use Adam LaRoche today. My apologies to you on that, Bell. I did not mean it in that sense. Don't use Adam LaRoche today, but he is back in that lineup, so that does change things and kind of makes that lineup a little bit better. The one guy, the two, 3 guys from that lineup I would consider would be Rendon, who matches lefties, Worth, who hits lefties really well, and Ian Desmond, who's just been red hot, who actually has reverse splits. It's not too drastic. It's really not much of anything. But a guy that's been red hot, has got 2 homers in this series already, and kind of has the platoon advantage there today, as well as Tyler Moore, who's hitting 6 and could be a value guy, followed by Kevin Franzen in that lineup. On the Pirates side of things, I know Doug Fister just got back and hasn't been like too bad, but he also hasn't been great. He's given up 4 home runs in like 18 innings already. I like Pedro Alvarez today. Pedro kind of flexed his muscle the other day, hit a home run to dead center off, I'm blanking, Jordan Zimmerman. But I like Pedro today. It's just one of those odd kind of feelings. You line up the platoon advantage. Obviously, that's there in his favor. And the 4 home runs that Fister's already given up, that's also in Alvarez's favor. But hitting in the 6 hole kind of makes it less appetizing. It's just one of those odd feelings, especially since you're going to have to pay for them. And if you're playing the early slate, guys like Mark Reynolds and maybe Josh Donaldson are definitely more appetizing plays. But I just have this odd feeling about Pedro Alvarez today. The other 2 guys here that I really like would be Neil Walker and Ike Davis. Actually, it's weird to say that because Ike Davis isn't typically a guy that we really consider playing. That's a guy to consider. He stung a couple hits the other night, and he gets to hit 4 right behind Andrew McCutchen in front of Marte. Kutch is always in play as well. And Neil Walker, who's just been better than I guess advertised. Pittsburgh's son. He's from here. You see a lot of Neil Walker jerseys in the stands, and I like that he gets to hit in that 2 hole kind of there, and he's swinging it from the left side today against Doug Fister, the side where he has a little bit more power. Hopefully he can throw one up there on the Clemente wall. I will be stacking both these teams in separate GPPs just because it's a lot of fun to stack teams in games that you're going to be at. I don't necessarily advise doing that. I'm just letting you know that I'm doing that. So if there are like 40 runs scored in this game, you can know that I'm winning something. Other than that, not too much here. Chris Stewart and Jose Lobaton getting the starts at catcher. So no Ramos and Martin, which is kind of disappointing, but that's what you expect on a day filled with day games after night games. Still kind of in this earlier slate here, the 1 o'clocks. Brandon Workman and Jake Odorizzi pitching the Red Sox and the Rays at Tropicana Field. The Rays have been really a disappointing team all season long for me. I've tried to use Evan Longoria numerous times, Will Myers numerous times, and they always kind of seem to really disappoint. And today against Workman, right-handed guy where they don't have the platoon advantage, I'm probably going to be off of them, especially with some of those other options. I'm trying to pull up Workman's stuff here. He hasn't started a game yet this year, so I'm not sure how long he's going to kind of go here today. Don't use Workman, I guess is what I should really say in this. Definitely don't use Brandon Workman because I don't think he goes too long in this game. But at the same time, I don't really think I'm going to be using too many Rays, for the reason I mentioned, them just not being a very good team as a whole. I think Matt Joyce is the guy that I like there in the 3-hole DHing today. You should be able to find him kind of at a discounted price because he kind of like pops in and pops out of that lineup based on the platoons, and his price just really won't ever kind of be too high if he doesn't really ever get in there kind of in a groove. And you don't really ever hear anything about the Rays. One, because they're kind of not that Cinderella story anymore, and they're just not playing too well. On the other end of it, Jake Odorizzi against the Red Sox. David Ortiz, obviously my favorite play there. A couple interesting things to note. Daniel Nava's back. He's hitting 6 today. Carp's hitting 5. Brock Holt is actually leading off the platoon advantage. Maybe a min-price guy that you can fit there in your lineup. And the Red Sox are kind of rounding that out with 3 lefties: Pierzynski, Sizemore, Bradley. Some other guys there, but obviously not the allure that you have with guys at the top of the order. So Ortiz, Carp, and Holt will be the 3 guys that I really have my eye on here. I think it's interesting that Brock Holt is leading off. I wasn't really expecting that, I guess, coming into today. I saw him get a couple hits the other day. This wasn't a guy that was actually on my radar at all. I'm going to pull up his numbers real quick for you guys. He's hitting 320 on the year, no homers, couple stolen bases, only 57 plate appearances. So, he hasn't been up there too long. But maybe a guy that, he's going to be min-price across the sites that you could sneak in your lineup and feel okay using, I guess, against a guy like Jake Odorizzi, who actually had a pretty nice start in his last outing, a lot of Ks there. But I guess moving on, sorry, I'm going a little bit quicker today. There's just not a whole lot that jumps out to me, and I still haven't gotten to the pitchers that I kind of want to maybe talk about a little bit more. And I haven't gotten to the Cubs game either, so that's something that I'll be able to expand upon a little bit. But anyway, moving on to the slate of games where we begin to not have lineups out, which makes it a little bit difficult for me to talk about. But it's the Yankees and the White Sox. I believe it is Masahiro Tanaka and Andre Rienzo. Tanaka's just been absolutely fantastic all season long, and it's nice that the Cubs actually gave him his first loss since his birth. He hasn't lost in 40-some plus professional starts, and the Cubs actually, of all teams, my Cubbies gave him a loss in his last start. He is pitching in a hitter's park today, but he's been doing that at Yankee Stadium as it is. U.S. Cellular is a hitter's park, but I am not frightened by the White Sox lineup at all. With Jose Abreu, that makes them even worse as a whole. So Tanaka is definitely, I think, my number 1 guy today, number 1, number 2 guy. And a guy that's definitely should be highly on your radar. The strikeout potential has just been unreal. 10.27 K per 9. That's more than a batter an inning. And you need the strikeouts in daily fantasy. And the White Sox, are a lineup that doesn't threaten me at all in the least bit. So definitely Tanaka. On the other end of it, Andre Rienzo, I think, is kind of going to be the complete opposite of what Tanaka is going to be today. He hasn't actually been too bad in his last few starts. Let's see. Last time he gave up more than 3 earned runs was actually April 23rd. But I can't get on board with using Rienzo. I actually like quite a few of the Yankees lefties. McCann, should he be in the lineup today, is a guy that I think you need to heavily consider. He homered a few nights ago, and still a hitter's park there. Teixeira. Ellsbury's one of my favorite guys. He never seems to live up to his expectations when I play him, but I'm going to keep rolling him out there. I'm going to keep rolling him out there until he kind of gets this thing done. And I hope today is the day that he does that. They're gonna throw a bunch of lefties in that lineup. Brian Roberts, Kelly Johnson, they're going to be in there. Brett Gardner, Solarte. I think all those guys are kind of in play. My favorites, like I mentioned, though, McCann, Teixeira, and Ellsbury. Those are the guys you're going to have to kind of pay up for. But, against Rienzo on a day like this at U.S. Cellular, I think they're kind of maybe worth paying up for, especially if this game should be kind of in a different slate of games. I'm not even fully aware if sites are splitting it up today, but should they be splitting it up and this is a game, maybe like a DFS Elite where this is in a different slate of games, those are the guys that I definitely think you need to be targeting, and not guys from the White Sox. Don't get too cute and pick guys against Tanaka. It's just really not worth it. He's just been absolutely exceptional. If you watch Tanaka, his splitter's unreal, and I'm not sure if the statistics have still held up, but I know earlier in the year he had thrown like the least percentage of pitches in the strike zone of like all qualifying pitchers, least percentage of pitches in the strike zone, but on pitches out of the strike zone was getting like the highest chase rate of like any pitcher in the big leagues of pitches outside the strike zone. That's pretty incredible. That speaks to the value of his stuff, like what he's throwing up there. Obviously, hitters aren't intentionally swinging at balls, but this guy's getting them to swing and miss at pitches that aren't in the strike zone, and that's consistently. He's getting a lot of swings and misses, and obviously just a great pitcher in general. A guy that I really wish the Cubs could have landed, but unfortunately decided to take his chances with winning and maybe some more money there in the Bronx with a little bit higher market. I can't really say I blame him, but he would look nice in Cubby blue. Anyway, I'll move on to Jason Vargas and Garrett Richards, the game at Angel Stadium. Richards' last start was actually real disappointing. He ended up really turning it around, but this is a guy that has good K potential, and we were looking for a lot of strikeouts against that Astros team, and it just didn't happen. He actually got hit around quite a bit, and actually I think had ended up with negative points on DraftKings, which was really, really disappointing when everybody was kind of on the Garrett Richards train. I'm not as high on him today because of the other arms, like Tanaka and Wainwright that I'll get to. But I think he's in play, I guess. We mentioned the Royals aren't a team that really strike out a whole lot, and actually a lot of their hitters today are going to have the platoon advantage against Richards. So while I'm not on Royals hitters because I do like what Richards has, I'm also not on Richards for, the potential of other pitchers today. And the fact that you're going to have to pay up for Richards because of his performance this season just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you could pay up for a guy like Wainwright or Tanaka. On the other end of it, though, Jason Vargas, kind of that veteran left-handed guy who's going to face a lot of right-handed Angels today. Not a guy I'm going to be using, but I am going to be targeting some Angels against him. I think Howie Kendrick's definitely a guy that is a really nice play at second base. Trout hit a home run last night, absolutely crushed a home run last night. If he'd get heated up here, that'd be really nice. He definitely needs to cut down on the strikeouts. But the Angels are gonna throw out a lot of right-handed guys today. David Freese, Pujols, Iannetta, those guys will be in there. Ibar can switch around and hit from the right side. C.J. Cron, all those guys are going to be in that lineup. They're all in play today. Everybody's in play today there against Vargas. I think my favorites, like I mentioned, are going to be Trout and Pujols, and even C.J. Cron. If he's still cheap, he's kind of bumped up in price across the sites because of that first week or so that he had in the bigs. But I need to be able to find him kind of at a more discounted price. And the guy I'm actually staring at, his name right now, that I keep forgetting to say is actually my favorite in this game, is Howie Kendrick. Howie Kendrick's definitely my favorite guy in this game because of his position, because of kind of where he's going to hit in that order. Other than that, man, if you shouldn't like Garrett Richards and you actually want to be targeting against him, Alex Gordon, Eric Hosmer are the guys to do that with. But not guys that are on my radar at all really today. I mentioned I actually already got through kind of like the really, really good hitting games for today. These last couple games are going to be games where you're probably going to be taking pitchers and maybe not as many hitters. I kind of tapped myself out on really good hitters today, and this is like kind of the last one. But don't get too cute and use many of those guys against Garrett Richards. In this next game, Nolasco and Bumgarner. Man, another game that's kind of odd because it is at AT&T Park, so you don't really want to target too many hitters, but I think Pablo Sandoval kind of has to be on your radar right now. Man, Pablo has just been, he was atrocious to begin the season, and like his numbers will kind of still reflect that he hasn't really had a good season. Let me pull up his batting average, 227. But he's been really, really good recently. He's up to 6 home runs. He hit one last night, I believe. The other day he had one that was overturned at Coors Field. That could have been another one that added on to his total. And Pablo, the nice thing about him is that he is a switch hitter and gets the hit from both sides of the plate. And Nolasco is a guy who is one of the few from that Twins rotation that doesn't have the reverse splits. And actually, yeah. Let's see. In his 10-game log here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 homers in his last 6, 1 in each of the last 2. Going in there today against Nolasco, a guy that needs to be on your radar. In the last week, 7 for 21, and 5 of those 7 hits have been for extra bases. So if he could get going there, that'd be nice because his price is still kind of down there on sites. And I like Pablo Sandoval as a player. I don't really use him a whole lot in daily fantasy sports. But if he gets going, I think today he's definitely got to be a guy that's on your radar, especially if you're doing a split slate where you don't get the choice of having a guy like Josh Donaldson. Then if that's the case, Pablo Sandoval, I think, is my favorite third baseman on the day, followed by Donaldson, like guys like Carl Santana, Mark Reynolds, those guys. But anyway, that would be kind of one of the only Giants guys that I'm considering. On the other end of it, I do like Madison Bumgarner as an option today. He doesn't quite fit in that top 3 with Tanaka and Wainwright, but he's a guy that you could maybe consider against the Twins. The Twins lineup that it's kind of cooled down a little bit. They've started off the season kind of pretty hot, and they really burned us a couple times with some pitchers that we tried to target them with. I don't see really that happening today. I guess maybe if you wanted to use a twin and you don't like Bumgarner, it'd be Brian Dozier probably or Trevor Plouffe. Those would be the 2 guys that I would say that I would maybe be like, okay, I guess, against Bumgarner. But you're not going to find me rostering anybody against him. I think he's definitely an option today. Doesn't quite fit my top 2. He's going to be in that kind of 3-4 range for me today. A left-handed guy who's going to get the platoon advantage over, the Twins' best hitter in Joe Mauer. Not that he should really scare anybody anyway. But Bumgarner's a guy that is kind of underrated, maybe not too well known there, but a 9.97 K per 9 this season. That's exceptional. A 3.38 ERA. The ground ball rate's down a little bit, but and what's been unfortunate for him is that the batting average on balls in play is 357 this year, so that's hurt him. Whereas in the last few seasons, it's been 276 and 251 respectively. So, I like Madison Bumgarner today. I think he's just been kind of a victim of some bad luck, and that K potential is really, really nice. And I think he's a very, very nice GPP play today because I think guys are going to be on Wainwright and guys are going to be on Tanaka. So I think Bumgarner is definitely in play today. The next game is going to be a game that I really regret talking about because I actually have to say something that I don't want to say, and that's that Dallas Keuchel is actually in play today. Man. Oh, let that sink in for a second. We all last season, like every time Dallas Keuchel stepped foot on the mound, stacked against Dallas Keuchel. Like it didn't matter which team he was playing. He stacked against Dallas Keuchel, and it worked last season. Beginning part of this season, Dallas Keuchel took the mound, stacked against Dallas Keuchel shuts down the team. Then you're like, what is going on? Like, it happens once, you're like, okay, whatever, he got lucky. It happens, you expect that. You roll out with Dallas Keuchel the next time, you stack against him, it doesn't work. And then you start to think to yourself, man, 2 times? Come on. It happens again, you stack against Dallas Keuchel, it doesn't work. And it hasn't worked all season long. He's been great. And, I actually haven't done a whole lot of reading about, kind of why maybe guys think that he's, boosted his performance, but he's got a 2.92 ERA, and he almost threw 2 complete game shutouts in a row. He ended up giving up 2 earned against the Angels when a guy came in and Howie Kendrick hit a 2-run triple against him. but he's just been exceptional. And, he's facing the Mariners, who are a very, very heavily left-handed lineup. And, I think Dallas Keuchel actually kind of has to be in that top 5 or 6 guys on your radar today. And you know what, though? While I say that, I do think that maybe if you stack against Dallas Keuchel, one of these times it's going to work. I don't think today's the day, but I am not done stacking against Dallas Keuchel. I guess I should say that. On the other end of it, I really like Hisashi Iwakuma. I think it's actually Hisashi. I said Hisashi. Hisashi Iwakuma against the Astros. He pitched against them in his first start out off the DL. He's an incredibly efficient pitcher. Another one of these guys from Japan who has a really good splitter. And he just goes out there and he pitches really well. The K potential really isn't kind of what some of these other guys have, like Tanaka and Bumgarner today, and Wainwright. And it's not up there with them, but this is a guy who's really efficient, gets a really bad team to pitch against, and makes for a very, very nice second pitcher on 2-pitcher sites, especially because his price isn't going to be outrageous. And, I think for those reasons, he's definitely kind of in that, top 4 or 5 pitchers to use today. But I do, I want to caution you with the strikeouts. And because I mentioned both of these pitchers as very viable options, there's no hitters for me in this game. Absolutely no hitters for me to consider. Robinson Cano has been red hot, and he actually, I think, leads the American League in hitting now. But I don't want to take him against, Cano isn't a guy that really the platoon advantage worries me against because he is such a good hitter, but I don't want to take him against Keuchel today. No thanks on that. So, really these 2 pitchers are guys that I think you need to consider. No hitters in this game for me. I don't know if anybody in the chat has hitters they're maybe thinking about using that they want me to mention or have questions on. Throw them out there, but no. Sorry. No. No thanks. No, not at all. I guess I'll move on to a game that I really like. I'm going to talk about for a little bit here. It's the Cubs and it's the Padres. This has been a 4-game series. The Cubs have already taken 2 of the 3. Kind of Edwin Jackson really got roughed up really badly. I do want to mention for all the haters out there right now, that hate on my Cubs homerism. The Cubs have been pretty good this last week, I guess I should say. And, Jason Hamill, let me screen share this for you. Jason Hamill, this guy right here, is going to haul us a nice prospect at the deadline. He's pitched really well all season long, and I do like him again today against the Padres. He doesn't kind of fit the top mold because he's not going to strike out a lot of hitters. And that's what we need in daily fantasy sports. I don't know how much I have to stress about it. So he doesn't really fit in that top mold of pitchers, but I think he should be an option, another one of those second pitchers to kind of complement those top guys today. That's what he is for me. I think the other guy, Ian Kennedy, in this game is another one of those guys as well. A guy with actually some K potential, though, against the Cubs lineup. And if they put Junior Lake out there today, which I really don't expect, if they do, that's like a free couple strikeouts there for him. And then you get some of those other guys in there, a bunch of the other guys who are just going to kind of K. So Ian Kennedy's definitely in play as well. And, man, I feel bad not mentioning too many hitters, but there aren't hitters to mention. Anthony Rizzo is a guy that I love always, especially against a right-handed guy like Kennedy. But this is a big ballpark that I don't see too many runs being scored in. I think the over-under on this game is 6.5. Not going to be a whole lot of scoring. Seth Smith's been red hot. That's a guy that you could consider against Jason Hamill. Other than that, no thanks. And I know Chris popping up here. Altuve balling out of control right now. Yeah, Jose Altuve, that's my favorite Astro, and I think probably everybody's favorite Astro. Really, really small, really, really small guy. Kind of fighting for us out there. I'm only 5'7", so thanks, Jose, for repping the short guys in the world. I appreciate it, but no thanks for me today against Iwakuma. Sorry. That would be, yeah, you're right, Chris. That would be the guy to consider, I guess. Or maybe a guy like Jason Castro who hits righties really well. But no thanks on any of the hitters in that game or any hitters in the Cubs game. I do want to mention, though, go Cubs, go. Let's take this series 3 out of 4. That'd be really nice. And I'm hoping that's the case today, although I think we're going to struggle for runs against Ian Kennedy. I really do. I guess I'll move on here to Colorado and Atlanta at Turner Field. I mentioned I wrote up a little article for the Fantasy Fix yesterday, and I mentioned Troy Tulowitzki against the lefty, even despite being away from Coors Field. And Tulowitzki did not disappoint, a home run off Minor in the sixth. No thanks on Tulowitzki today. I actually really like Julio Teheran. Not at the top of my list again, because I need the strikeouts, and there's just other pitchers there today. But I'm not going to probably be targeting as many, Rockies as I would if they were at home, as well as not as many Rockies as I would against a different pitcher. Excuse me. I think, a guy like Charlie Blackmon at the top there, and I think you'll probably see Dickerson. And Tulowitzki kind of always in play, but don't pay up for him today, man. Don't pay up for him. That's my advice. Kadyr's back in that lineup. If you can get him real discounted and you want to maybe take a chance on it, okay, but no thanks. I'm not going to be on a whole lot of these guys. Justin Morneau, another guy with a platoon advantage. And Rosario is back in that lineup. He's a guy I typically only really use against lefties. No thanks on really too much of this. And I feel bad just kind of saying no thanks, but I don't know. If anybody else is seeing hitters in these games that they like, let me know. I don't want to use them. On the other end of things, I think there are some Braves that you could use against Franklin Morales. Justin Upton, B.J. Upton, Chris Johnson, those are guys. Andrelton Simmons doesn't ever strike out really, but he's not a guy that typically use in DFS. So if you're playing on a site like Draft Street or Fantasy Aces where you really need to punt a position and you need a place that you're not going to get burned by a guy going to strike out, Andrelton Simmons is like the perfect guy to use. He's only struck out 16 times this season. He's only projected, I'm looking at ESPN projections, so don't really buy that, but he's only projected to strike out like 54 times. He doesn't ever walk, though, either, so that's kind of the disappointing thing. He puts it in play, but it hasn't really resulted in too much this year. 259 with 4 homers. But a guy that if you're looking to punt and you don't want to strike out, then Andrelton Simmons is definitely in play for me. Other than that, I mentioned those guys. Justin, I mentioned BJ, unfortunately. I mentioned Chris Johnson and Simmons. I'm not going to probably be on Hayward or Freeman with the lefty on the bump. But that's about it for that Braves lineup for me today. Thunder Rams is saying low-scoring series in Atlanta so far. I think that's kind of what we expected. Obviously you're not expecting the firepower that the Rockies have at home when they're on the road, and especially at a place like Turner Field. And some of the arms that they've seen in this series, too, also. Like Mike Minor's a really good pitcher. And I guess the Rockies don't really have an exceptional arm, but the Braves lineup really isn't, not too much from them. Let's move on to the next one. This is, let's see, the latest. This is actually the last game, I guess, on the docket. Adam Wainwright and Mike Leake. Man, if Bell was here, I'd let him kind of spew off about Adam Wainwright. I like Adam Wainwright a lot today. He's so good, dude. It's annoying that he's in the Cubs division. Like, I get annoyed by it. And I know that the Cubs have, actually been the team that's been good against him this season. But it's annoying that we actually even have to face him. And I hate that, every time he goes out there, he kind of gets a win for the Cardinals. And it's stupid. It makes me so mad. But anyway, 7-2 on the year, 1.85 ERA. His whip's .86. He threw a one-hitter last start. Man, give me a reason to not like Adam Wainwright against the Reds lineup that doesn't have Joey Votto, that doesn't have anybody in it. It's disgusting. They're kind of an aging, declining team, and I see this team actually. You laugh about the Cubs, maybe not being too good right now, but I see the Reds in the next 2 or 3 years being that cellar dweller, for maybe a while here. Because I think the Cubs are going to be at the top of the division, no doubt. So, whatever. But anyway, Wainwright definitely high on your list today. Definitely needs to be up there. And the other cool thing about rostering a guy like Wainwright today is you get that late sweat. So if you're in a head-to-head matchup and you got Wainwright at the very end, you can feel safe because I think Wainwright's going to be really, really good today. And, Mike Leake, I can't really take anything away from what Mike Leake's done in his recent outings. 7 innings, 2 earned. 8 innings, 1 earned. 6 2/3, 1 earned in his last 3. He's been real good, actually. I just don't like Mike Leake as a person. This is a guy that I don't know if if you're a baseball fan, you might have heard that he had an issue with shoplifting like 3 or 4 years ago. He stole a bunch of shirts from a department store. Dude, why? Why are you stealing shirts? You're a Major League Baseball player. Like, you don't need to steal shirts. What an idiot. Anyway, because of that, I've always hated Mike Leake, and I'll continue to hate it because I have morals, Mike Leake. I'm not really picking on him with too many Cardinals today, but the guy that I really, really like is Colton Wong. A hit in each of his last 6 games, a guy that can kind of change the game with his legs, and he has some sneaky power, and I like that he's kind of up there at the top of that order. Drew a couple walks yesterday, got a hit. I really like Colton Wong at that, kind of middle infield eligibility for his price. Those are the reasons I like it. Alan Craig's been swinging a little bit better. I'm not super, super high on him today. I like Matt Carpenter and Matt Adams. Those are the other 2 guys that I like, guys with the platoon advantage there today. But outside of that, not too much there. I think the Cardinals are in the game. In this game, the Cardinals are the guys you need to think about rostering. Carpenter, Adams, Wong is my favorite of the 3, actually, and Adam Wainwright for sure. But outside of that, guys, that takes care of all the games. I do want to mention that you should all be rooting for the Cubs today against Ian Kennedy because we're going to need it. And I do want to mention, some of our sponsors, DFS Elite. Give them a try on a day like today where there's, some discrepancies in like the slates. You got the 1 o'clocks, the 4 o'clocks, and then maybe that 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and the 8 o'clock game. Test them out if you don't really want to take a chance on the all-day slate. Give them a chance. I know they just did an update where they've got a new logo, some new things going on in the lobby. That's really, really cool. So give those guys a chance. I know Grant's been on the show. He's a great guy. Also, Baller's one of the new sponsors. Sports Trade X is gearing up for that big thing. FanX has the $1 million home run thing. There's so many great things going on across the sites. Definitely jump in. Take advantage of those things, guys, while you have the chance. Because, new guys that kind of just hop into the industry that aren't a member of Lou Dogs already don't have the luxury of, getting the free rolls and the deposit bonuses and the loot matches. They don't have that luxury. And so while you do, definitely take advantage of it because we want to be able to support these guys since they're supporting our community. Other than that, if nobody has any questions or anything, I'm actually going to head out here. I'm going to walk over to the Bucks game, and hopefully Pedro hits a home run for me today. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out. Otherwise, there will be a show tonight at 8:30. I don't even actually know if I'm on it. I guess I'll find out. Maybe I'll see you guys later tonight. If not, I'll see you definitely tomorrow for the long shot, if we're still doing that with Memorial Day. Otherwise, enjoy the day, guys. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the holiday. Win some money, and go Cubs, go. All right, guys. I would walk off to Ridin Solo, but I can't seem to find my music right now. So take care, guys.